tonight Mr. Angelo Caruso. Michael teaches presentation skills on 5 continents and in 49 of the 50 United States. A former musician, Michael uses his entertaining speaking style to help leaders, salespeople, customer service teams, and Rotarians all around the world. Mike, you should know that we have quite a few non-Rotarians listening in tonight as well, so the interest is very high. Michael's clients include very big names such as Bank of America, Verizon Wireless, Rayovac, Hallmark, AT&T, National Institutes of Health, the United States Navy, and the Barbados Ministry of Tourism, for an organization that's much closer to home for all of us. He's the author of Work Hacks book, the Dear Michael Angelo audio book, and has a very successful online speaker coaching program called Present Like a Pro. I have personally heard Michael speak on more than one occasion because, like me, he is very regularly at international conventions. He's also spoken at the Zone 33, 34 Institute on more than one occasion. And we happened to have a chance meeting last year as well in Hamburg, when we both decided to stay in a hotel very far away from all of the action. but still happened to bounce into each other outside waiting for a taxi one day. So I was happy to run into him. And now I'm happy to be here doing this, of course, as well. Michael is a lifetime Rotarian of the Troy Rotary Club in Michigan. He was the district governor of that district in 2016-17. Another coincidence, because I was district governor of 17-30 in 2016-17 as well. He currently serves as the RPIC, which is Rotary Speak for Rotary Public Image Coordinator for his Zone 28. Now, dozens and maybe many dozens of Rotary clubs in North America have hosted Mr. Caruso's public professional development programs. These events have raised over $250,000 for Rotary because Michael Caruso donates his speaking fee back to the hosting club. Very honorable indeed. Fellow Rotarians, Rotaractors, and specially invited guests, please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Angelo Caruso. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much, PDG Roger. I appreciate you, Governor Lyle and Sean Patty. Thanks for talking me in and issuing the initial invitation. I have a fantastic program planned for you today. I'd like to set up a little call and response just so that we have some connectivity, everybody. You can see down below in your system tray, there's a button for reactions. Can you find the button that says thumbs up and click it for me right now just for practice? I'll ask you periodically if you agree with something that I'm saying. You'll notice there is no thumbs down button. You cannot disagree with me tonight, which I think is fantastic. We're going to talk today about presentation skills and how you can make the most of your time in front of people. This is especially important in the land of COVID, everybody, because I think it is about 10 times more difficult to connect with somebody in a video chat. And of course, a lot of us are doing video chats these days by necessity. So these techniques that I'm about to share with you will be good for both online and in-person presentations later down the road. I'm essentially going to talk to you today about 3 ways that you can improve your presentation. We're going to talk about the beginning of your presentation. We're going to talk about the middle of your presentation. And what do you suppose the third segment is? The ending of your presentation. It's the most important part. And I'm going to break it down for you. We're going to go through it chronologically. So I'd like to begin. And if you have a pen, I'm going to be giving you all kinds of tips. You'll never remember all of this. Thank you, Teresa. Hold up your pen if you got a pen with you. That's great. Thank you, Natasha. Wow, Joe, very good. Everybody's taking notes. Thank you, Kamal. So we want to talk about the beginning of the presentation. Everybody wants to have a fantastic original content. Everybody wants to have an original delivery. I'm going to give you 2 techniques for having really good content and really good delivery. The first one involves content, and it's going to mean a little bit of homework for you. And this means you actually have to do a little research and Googling and searching on your topic, right? It's just not enough to share the same type of content that everyone else is sharing. You have to do a little bit deeper dive. And I just say use a bigger shovel. When you're digging for content, use a bigger shovel. I posted a blog this morning at michelangelocaruso.com about why you should not use PowerPoint when you present. And just so that I could dig a little bit deeper, use a bigger shovel, I did a little bit of research on PowerPoint. A program I found out was invented. Can you guess what year it was invented? PowerPoint was invented in 1987, everybody, which makes it a little over 30 years old. Can you believe that? It was invented by two gentlemen, and it was initially called Presenter. That was the name of PowerPoint in its first iteration. It was called Presenter. Now, just by doing that Google work, I am able to tell you two things about PowerPoint that you didn't know. One, that it was invented in 1987, and secondly, the original name of that software program. So already, my program is wildly original compared to some people who are teaching how to use PowerPoint, just because I did that little search. And you can do that over and over and over again to come up with wildly original content. One way to improve the delivery of that content is to not use the same delivery methods that everybody else uses. I will not be using PowerPoint today, 33 years after PowerPoint was invented. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. The reason I don't use PowerPoint is because I want to stand out from other speakers. Roger is correct. I speak at a lot of conferences, and I would say 9 out of 10 presenters use PowerPoint. I can set myself apart from them instantly by not using PowerPoint. And when I'm presenting at a conference where I'm the 8th speaker to come up on the platform, and all 8 people before me have used PowerPoint, I open my presentation by saying, hey everybody, I have great news. I will not be using PowerPoint today. And I get a round of applause just for that statement. You can use the very same trick, but trust me when I tell you that not using PowerPoint, while it can be very effective, also has its challenges. You have to be highly organized to not use PowerPoint. You have to know your content inside and out. Most speakers are using PowerPoint as a cheat sheet. It's a very elaborate set of talking points, and it keeps me moving in a linear fashion all the way through my presentation. This is a gift. But I'm going to kill my audience by using PowerPoint because it's more beneficial to me than it is to them. I think it's a lot more beneficial for me to speak to the audience using eye contact. And I use a special speaking technique called speaking in the round. Roger knows this because he's seen me speak on a number of occasions. I not only don't use the podium when I speak. See, he's nodding his head already. I don't even use the speaking platform. I begin on the platform and then I move out into the audience and I'm embedded with the troops, to use a military term. And I'm touching you on the shoulder and I'm standing next to you as I'm speaking. And it changes the entire dynamic of the presentation. I become one of you. And that makes me more relatable. And the engagement when I speak in the round is through the roof, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is not a technique that is for everybody, but it works for me. And I wanted to mention it to you today because it will make you more effective as a speaker. Absolutely. So in the round, no PowerPoint. And I want to give you $1 million tip right now for speaking on Zoom that most people don't understand. I know there are some people on the call from the United States. There is a new Postmaster General in the United States. His name is Mr. DeJoy, and he's got his hands full because the U.S. Postal Service has a broken business model. He's trying to fix it, but some people are questioning the timing of when he's going to work fixing the model. It's an election year. Some people think there might be something afoot. And so a United States lawmaker on a Zoom call, very much like this one, said to Mr. DeJoy, Postmaster General DeJoy, "Sir, can you look me in the eye and promise me that we will have a highly functioning postal service during this upcoming election?" And Mr. DeJoy answered the question by doing this. Yes, I promise that we will have a highly functioning election. And you see what he did? He could not look her in the eye. She made that very simple request to Mr. DeJoy, and he couldn't follow through by looking her in the eye. And the reason is, on Zoom calls like this, when we are presenting, there are two other places that we're looking instead of looking people in the eye. The first place that we look sometimes is at our own image on the screen. Now, if I look at my own image right now, I would look over here on the screen. Do you see that shift that just happened? I would look from where I'm looking now to my image, and now I've lost eye contact with you. The second place I can look is your image. I could look down here, or over here, and you see how you feel like maybe I'm not connected with you anymore because I'm not looking you in the eye. Ladies and gentlemen, to establish eye-to-eye contact on a Zoom call, there's only one place that you can look, and that is the lens of the camera. And it is very counterintuitive to look into that lens of the camera, but that's where I'm with you 95% of my own presentation tonight. So if I'm connecting with you in any kind of a real way, that's my secret. And you can challenge yourself on your next presentation on Zoom and see if you catch yourself looking away from the lens of the camera to look at other people's images or perhaps your own image. But that's $1 million tip right there. It's going to be a hard habit to break. But once you figure it out, people will think you're a fantastic communicator and even a better listener. So always look into the lens of the camera. Okay, we're in the beginning of the presentation now, and we're going to talk about 5 things that you can do in the beginning of the presentation to set yourself up for success. I'm going to count them down for you one at a time. And by the way, these are laid out in that work hacks book that Roger talked about earlier. I'm on page 32, and you can see it's a number of things that you can do at the beginning of a presentation to be more effective. So the number one thing is, a lot of people like to begin with a joke. I highly recommend that you do not start with a joke unless you are a professional comedian. This is an art form. It is hard to be funny. Every joke makes fun of someone or something, and people are easily offended today. Thumbs up if you understand me when I say this. People are easily offended. So humor is dangerous, especially if people don't understand your rhythm. Far better to begin your presentation with a nice compliment. Thank you very much, District Governor Lyle, for having me. What a great introduction, PDG Roger. And Sean, thanks very much for your hospitality. You see how I began with a compliment. It's so nice to be with you this evening. Bonsoir, right? A bit of the language, if you can do that. People love it. And we forget to do that sometimes. And the reason we forget is because at the beginning of the presentation, our central nervous system is under siege. Thumbs up if you've ever been nervous at all when you're speaking to other people. Everybody, thank you, Natasha. Everybody gets nervous when they're speaking to other people. And so you can avoid this by just following this very simple heuristic or shortcut that I'm showing you. Begin with a compliment, not a joke. Number 2, you want to deliver something called positive expectation. I think I told you earlier I have a fantastic presentation plan for you this evening. And just in case Roger didn't tell you, I'm going to tell you. And if Roger told you, I'm going to tell you again. I want to build your expectation so that you know something really good is about to happen. I know this presentation is great. I need you to know it and believe it. And so I'll actually say that. And I challenge you at the beginning of your presentations. President Lyle, Governor Lyle is doing his governor visits. Begin your presentations, Governor Lyle, by saying this is going to be the best governor visit you've had in at least a year. And people will laugh. It's funny. It's good. So there's your humor and positive expectation at the same time. The third thing that you want to do is get people to do something physically as they're listening to you. Now, there are a number of things I can get you to do to physically respond to me. I can ask you all to nod if you agree with me. Go ahead and nod if you agree with me. And everybody turns into a bobblehead. Excellent. I've asked you several occasions to give me a thumbs up, and you've done that for me. You can also click thumbs up, down at the bottom, and that establishes what Seth Godin calls fast feedback loops. This means you're with me. And it's very important for the speaker to feel that. So I'm not only doing it for me because I like the reinforcement, but I'm doing it for you. Because if we establish this call and response early on, we'll have this easy rhythm the next few minutes of my presentation. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, a little preview of coming attractions. All presentations have a call to action. The call to action is usually delivered at the end of the presentation, and all good speakers want to get several small yeses from you before they get the big yes. So I have a big call to action coming at the end of my presentation, and I need you to say yes in small ways before we get to the big yes. Do you follow? Thumbs up? Okay, excellent. The fourth thing, and also write things down, right? I said physically. So nod of the head, thumbs up. Do you have a pen so you can write things down? These are all physical things that I can get you to do. And I can get you to smile, which I've done on a number of occasions so far. The fourth thing I want you to do in the first few seconds of my presentation is teach you something you don't know. There's a real reason for this, in that if I can teach you something you don't know in the first few seconds of a presentation, that means my presentation has future value to you. If I've already taught you something you don't know in the first 2 minutes, I'm likely to teach you some new things in the next 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. So I set up this pattern that I'm going to teach you something, and therefore my information is valuable to you. I taught you the original name of PowerPoint in the first 60 seconds of my presentation. Presenter was the name of the presentation, or name of PowerPoint. Another good trick for this is to use a statistic. I'm a writer and a speaker, and I happen to know how many words there are in the English language. Do you? Most people don't know how many words there are in the English language. So I might play with that a little bit. How many people know how many words there are in the English language? And I'll get very few takers on this. I might get some guesses. The guesses will be high. The guesses will be low. And I sit in this for a little minute just to have you be a little uncomfortable, to build the tension. I know something you don't know. I'm going to tell you the answer in just a few seconds. It builds anticipation. It's an old speaker trick. And then finally, I'll tell you, there are about 500,000 words in the English language, not counting the derivatives, verb derivatives, and not counting gerunds. Those are ing words. And again, you may be learning something that you don't know. So all of this is to set this program up for success, because I want you to get something from it. So we've said now there are 5 things that you should do in the beginning of the presentation. Do not begin with a joke. Begin with a compliment instead. Number 2 is to set up positive expectation. Number 3 is to get the audience to do something physical several times if you can do that. Number 4 is to teach the audience something they don't know. And number 5 is to format your presentation, which I've already done for you this evening. I'm going to teach you 3 areas of the presentation that can be improved: the beginning, the middle, and the end. And that's how it works. If you have questions about anything, type it into the chat bar or raise your hand, and our moderator will rescue me from my own program so that we can answer your question in real time. And if we don't catch it now, or you think of the question later, we can answer it at the end of the program. So I'm not sure who's helping me with questions. Maybe it's Sean. Is there anything that we need to take care of right now, Sean?
No, you can go ahead, Michael.
Very good. I just did another speaker trick, everybody. It's called the stall. This is the stall. I like to use a bottle of water, but this happens to be a glass of water. And if I'm using a bottle of water, I can take some time to unscrew the cap. So I'll say something like, "Are there any questions?" And then I have the bottle of water. I uncap the bottle. I take a long swig. I take the bottle down. I cap it again. No questions? Okay, very good. Let's continue. Let's talk now about the middle of the program, everybody. A lot of important things happen in the middle of the program. The first thing that you'll notice is that your central nervous system stops holding you hostage and you start to settle into the rhythm of your own program. You start to figure out that maybe you're going to get through this without losing it. The audience is starting to respond a little bit, and you can move into your PowerPoint slides if that's the case. You can move into your content. You want to keep an eye on your time during the middle of the program. Most speakers suffer from something called time dilation. And what happens is time starts to move faster than you think it is. And that's why you run out of time in your presentations. You've been given 20 minutes to speak, and you get 10 minutes. You think you're 10 minutes into your own program. And then the moderator stands up and says, well, your time is up. And you're like, what happened? What happened? That's called time dilation. It's the same thing that happens during an emergency when you call an ambulance and you say to the lady, the operator, you say, why are you keeping me on the phone? It's been 5 minutes already and you should be getting the ambulance here. And she says, no, sir, we've only been on the phone for 20 seconds. That's called time dilation. It's a very common phenomenon, and if you're present and you understand it, you can use your time more wisely when you're speaking. Another thing that happens in the middle of the presentation is called a signature story. This is really, really important. The signature story. By the way, some people are asking me to repeat the 5 steps. I told you that there was going to be content, didn't I? Back to the beginning now, the beginning of the presentation. The first thing is no joke. You begin with a compliment. Number 2, you're going to establish something we call in the business positive expectation. Number 3, you're going to get the audience to respond physically to you. Number 4, teach the audience something they don't know. This cannot be a commonly known fact. It must be something that most people in the audience say, I never knew that. Like the original name of PowerPoint. Most people don't know that. And number 5, you're going to format your presentation. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the 3 elements of the presentation. Okay, so we're continuing now with a very important element. And I'm stunned at how many presenters don't actually develop and cultivate and curate what we call in the business a signature story. Now, a signature story has 3 unique characteristics. Number 1, it's brief. When I say brief, I mean 2 minutes, tops. Second, it's unique. Only you can tell your signature story. I can't tell yours, and you can't tell mine. And third, most good signature stories have a positive moral, means a happy ending, right? Natasha has mentioned that Rotarians are excellent at signature stories. Well, a lot of Rotary stories end on a happy note. We're eradicating polio, or we delivered water to a village in Sri Lanka, right? There's always a happy ending to what we do, so that's good. One thing Rotarians struggle with is the 2-minute part. We go on and on and on and on, and the audience is sleeping and leaving and not. 2 minutes is fine. Get it down, distill it down to its essence, and practice it. I'm going to tell you a 2-minute story in just a second, and it's a very good story, and it clocks in right about at 2 minutes. Somebody can time it if they want, and I've told it 2,000 times. So there is no fat on the bone, man. This story is as perfect as it's ever going to be, and people have loved it, as Roger said, in 49 of the 50 states and on 5 continents. And it's a story that everybody can relate to, and it has a very happy ending. It's called the airplane story or the above the cloud story. You can search it on YouTube and see it. It's 2 minutes on YouTube as well. And if you bother to look up any of my videos on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can get ongoing motivation for all of your good Rotary work. Just search Michael Angelo Caruso channel on YouTube and you can click subscribe and you'll be notified when new videos are posted. Okay, does somebody have a timer? We're going to do the 2-minute story, the 2-minute airplane story. Here we go. Start the clock. I was boarding an airplane, And the people on the plane were getting ready to sit down. You know how slow that can go sometimes. And the pilot came on and he made a very unusual announcement. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats? We'd like to leave early." I'd never heard a pilot say this before. Have you? And it worked like a charm, man. Everybody sat down, buckled up. I don't know why they don't use this announcement on every flight, because it worked like a charm. And everybody's waiting to go. And the pilot came back on and he said, "As you know, ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting some bad weather. And if we don't leave now, we're going to miss our window for takeoff. And then you could miss your connection, and we don't want that to happen. So thank you very much for your cooperation." Now, a little bit about the weather. It's a fairly heavy storm front. We want you to know that we're going to suspend beverage service. We're asking our flight attendants to remain seated. And you can see it's already getting overcast outside. Up in the flight deck, we will be flying in a condition we call zero visibility. And then he said, "But don't worry, it's safe." And of course, we didn't feel any better when he said it's safe. Zero visibility sounds dangerous. And he was right, man. It was a pretty rocky takeoff. I fly a lot, and this was the most violent takeoff I have ever experienced. A white-knuckle proposition. This plane was shaking and vibrating, and there were people praying on the flight as we take off. But something very interesting happened as we gained altitude. We flew, and we flew into bright, pristine sunshine. And the reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, is because all you need to do in life is decide if you want to fly your plane in the clouds or above them. Isn't that true? And when you fly your plane above the clouds, every day is a bright, sunny day. Stop the clock. How much time did it take? About 2 minutes. That's called the signature story. And a signature story delivers you. It sets you apart from other speakers. People don't want 211. Thank you, Grayson. People don't want more. Write this down. People don't want more bullet points. They want success stories. We think if we have more slides and more bullet points, we're a better speaker. And that is not correct. Dio makes the great point that it helps to practice your presentations. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. And that is exactly correct. I can tell you that that little story has been rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and then I record it, and then I watch the video, then I try it in a different country and see how it goes over, then I try it in another place and see how it goes over, and I've got it down, man. So very good. And somebody's posted the video to that story right there for you to click and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Liz, did you like that story? Thumbs up, Liz. Thank you very much. That was another speaker trick, everybody. You can do this in person, of course, when people are in the audience. If you know their names, you can call on them. Did you like that story? And if you ask yes questions, the likelihood of the other person saying yes is good. And that's that positive feedback loop that we're looking for. You can also do it on Zoom because most people now have figured out that they have a nameplate. Now you'll have to mouse over to say hello to Lewis. Hi, Lewis. Hi, Ronald. Hi, Albert. How are you? Nice to see you. You're looking good tonight. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Peter. So what you can do is pull people into your presentation so they actually feel like they're part of it. And that's the magic of a signature story, everybody. So we're in the middle of the presentation now. We're watching the clock. We're telling signature stories that have been pre-timed. So there's like these pre-timed little bits. We're also doing shout outs to the audience to try to make sure that they're with us on the entire journey. And we are answering questions along the way. You'll notice I've pulled now a few questions from the chat, and I've invited our moderator to ask questions. I've invited people to raise their hand if they have questions so that we can serve them in real time. That's a big question I get from people is it better to answer questions in real time, or is it better to push off those questions until the end of the talk? If you're just getting started in the speaking business, I would maybe take the questions at the end. But the hallmark of a good speaker is that I can stop my presentation anytime I need to, put a little bookmark in it, and answer your question in real time. You don't want your question answered later. You want it answered now. And your question is about the topic I just talked about. So I want to answer it now whenever possible. And then I go back to my presentation. I have no trouble getting the microphone back from you so that I can finish my presentation. Dio asks to play on the difference in communicating between the written and the spoken word. The latter is enhanced by facets of nonverbal communication, 100%. Let me demonstrate a couple of nonverbal techniques for you. We talked before about the value of what are called yes questions. So what do you suppose I do when I ask a yes question? I nod my head yes, that's it. Watch what happens when I ask a yes question and shake my head no. Do you understand what I'm saying so far? Is this working for you so far? You see, it almost messes with your head to see a no and a yes at the same time. So I'll ask the yes question. I'll also establish in a live presentation what's called home base. And from home base, I deliver all of my most salient messages, my signature stories. I might issue my call to action and my greeting from this home base. But if I want to work from a satellite location, I move to the satellite location to make a point, and then when I'm done making the point, where do you think I go? Back to home base again. That's exactly right. So it's a little bit more awkward in a chair, even if the chair has casters. A lot of speakers do the tennis match thing where they want to work the whole room. So they start on this side, and then they go to this side, and then they walk to this side again. And it's like a tennis match, and they never stop moving the entire time, and you get seasick from this, And I stand and deliver, man. Because if you're a solid presenter and you have solid content, you need to be a solid speaker. And that's what we do when we stand and deliver. Excellent. Okay, let's move now to the third and final segment of the presentation. A lot of people think that this is the most important part of the presentation because it contains what we refer to in the business as the CTA, call to action. Very, very important. The call to action is the ultimate destination for your content because all good speakers want to have the audience do something differently after the presentation or just do something at the end of the presentation. If I was just delivering information, I might as well just give you a pamphlet or a flyer. Or I could just send you to a website if I just wanted to give you information. But the reason we do live presentations is to enact audience behavior. We need to change something or get the audience to do something, continue doing something, continue eradicating polio. If I was with the foundation or with End Polio Now campaign, I would most certainly be mentioning that all of Africa, the entire continent, has been declared free of the wild polio virus. It's huge news. And it's the kind of celebratory statement that really can motivate us to finish the job. I'm surprised I haven't heard more Rotarians talking about this, but maybe they have polio fatigue. But it's a huge thing. And I would say whatever I needed to do to get you to continue with the polio eradication. Now, my call to action for you in this presentation is a little bit different. And I'm not really in a position to sell you anything or, anything like this. It would be inappropriate in this type of a presentation. But I have already asked you to do several things, several calls to action. And in fact, in the very beginning of the presentation, I posted something in the chat for you to join 2 Facebook groups. And I'm going to post them again for you right now because I have them on my clipboard because the call to action is important to me. And I'm recommending 2 Facebook groups to you. The first is called Get the Word Out Now. And you should join this group if you want to grow your club, raise more money, and get attention for the greatest service organization in the world. All in favor say aye, thumbs up. So you would join that group to be with like-minded people and get those ongoing tips. And the second Facebook group I would recommend is called Present Like a Pro. And that's your chance to get ongoing presentation tips from the group, from me, and you will constantly improve your presentations moving forward. You should do this especially if you're speaking on behalf of Rotary, because Rotary can use good speakers. Some would say Rotary could use better speakers. I'll say Rotary could use good speakers. Okay. When you get close to doing the call to action, you want to speed up your WPMs. That's called words per minute. Thank you, Teresa. Words per minute. The average person speaks about 150 words per minute. When I get closer to the call to action and I'm not working with interpreters, I might speed up my words per minute to about 180 words per minute. I'll give you a quick sample of this, because when I speed up how fast I'm talking, it puts a little bit more energy into the air and you get a little bit more excited. You notice I'm also gesturing a little bit more as I do this. I'm on a small screen right now, so my gestures are small, but if I was on a big stage, I might have larger gestures. This is an old theater trick, right? To take in the entire room and get everybody to do what I need them to do. So all of these happen during the call to action. Kenneth says, if you make an error in pronunciation, do you say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or do you cover it up the best you can and move on? I've done both, Kenneth. I actually like making mistakes because it makes me more human. I tend to be I can try to be too perfect sometimes in my presentation. And a perfect presenter is boring, Kenneth. So if you make mistakes, you're doing well. And if you make a mistake that you can laugh at, people love that. You know, you're kind of poking fun at yourself. Remember I said all humor makes fun of someone or something? To make fun of yourself is a good thing because you can't offend yourself. And so that's called self-deprecating humor, and it's a great technique that you can use. I don't recommend making too much fun of yourself, otherwise you will become perceived as less of an authority, more of a clown than an authority on your area of content. That's my recommendation. So in case you haven't guessed yet, my call to action, in addition to just keeping up all the great Rotary work, everybody, is to join those two Facebook groups, join the YouTube channel, subscribe to it so that you're getting good content, and then share that good content with other Rotarians. You know that we have a membership challenge right now, especially in North America, and I believe the islands, although your numbers are better than up here in the States, I believe the islands are part of that measurement. Sean can tell you more about that. Governor Lyle can tell you more about that. We need to keep membership moving forward, and there are many ways to do that, but one of the ways we can do it as presenters is by making sure we're giving people world-class presentations, highly original in content, and very, very, very strong delivery. I see a question from Eric, and forgive me, it's in French. I'll need someone to translate that for me. And here's my stall technique again. Cheers. We can handle that translation whenever you'd like to do that. We're going to open up for Q&A here in a minute so that we can end this segment right on time. I told you that watching the clock is very important. I know I'm supposed to end a few minutes before the top of the hour, and we factored the Q&A into my segment. So we're prepared to take a number of questions from people who want to learn more about being a better presenter, not only for Rotary, but being a better presenter in your line of work. If you are in leadership of any kind in your job, please give me a thumbs up, or give me just do your thumbs up. Thank you. And if you are in persuasion of any kind, if you're in the sales trade, thumbs up. Customer service, selling products or services. A number of us do that. Thank you very much. So hopefully this content has been helpful for you in that vein. Okay, we're looking through the questions right now, and some of these are private to me, but I assume that I can answer them publicly. I still don't know the French translation from Eric, but maybe this is coming this way. Should we focus people's attention on the presentation or try to bring it back to those who have dropped out? If you're asking the question and you want to take yourself off mute so that we can have a little give and take, I welcome that. I try not to focus too much on the people that I'm losing. You know, I'm not for everybody. Right now we have 255 people on this call, and I have no delusions about being everybody's cup of tea. So if you don't care for me, I'm not going to work extra hard to capture you. I'll realize that I'm not for you, and I'm going to try to get to those other 250 people, 245 people. I'm especially working with people who are on the fence, right? People who they can't decide whether or not they want to honor my call to action. I might work extra hard with those people. I hope that answers your question.
Michael?
Yes.
J'ai quelques questions que Sean Paddy m'a envoyées. Donc, je vais te les...
I do have some questions that I received, so I would like to ask them. I will say them in English and they will be translated in French.
So, Tim is asking how do you deal with disruptive person in an audience?
A question about how to deal with disruptive people in the audience. Well, that's why the opening minutes are really important. I'm establishing myself as someone who's in control of my presentation. I know a few things about this. I'm going to be holding the steering wheel. There are always people in the audience that think they might, slip in behind the wheel and drive for a few minutes. And I try to set those ground rules up in soft ways at the beginning. Later, I might meet somebody who wants to ask, for example, a 10-part question. And I'll quickly say, we don't have time to answer all 10 parts of that question now, but I'll answer this for you right now, and we can talk about the rest afterward. Is that okay with you? There's the yes question. They're in a hard place to disagree with me. They'll say yes, even if they don't want to. And now I've handled that situation. So there are techniques for this that you can... And the audience will support you because the audience doesn't want to go down that rabbit hole either, usually. So that's an easy answer to that question. Someone has asked... Yes, Maurice, someone has asked about how these rules apply and guidelines apply. This is Tiffany. To persuasive presentations in an academic presentation or an academic forum. I think in an academic arena, it's even easier to be impressive because a lot of the content can be dry or dogmatic or linear. So that when you move from the linear to, say, a series of signature stories, you become that much more impressive with people. So you give them the lesson and then you give them the story. Think about it this way, Tiffany, you're giving the left brain logical, linear explanation, and then you're illustrating it for the right brain people. Poetry, music, verse, story. And there's that constant back and forth, right? Left brain, right brain. Left brain, right brain. And that ultimately will make the presentation that much stronger. Maurice?
Yes, Randall is asking, my staff do not value speaking and presenting well. They rely on the product to sell itself. How do I get my staff to be better speakers and salespersons?
Well, earlier we said, and it's an excellent question, a very common problem. When I work with sales teams, and I do a lot of sales coaching, I have an online course for sales coaching. I have an online course for presentation training. I always tell sales managers that they should explain carefully and softly to their salespeople that if we just wanted the product to sell itself, we wouldn't really need salespeople now, would we? We could just have an online store and the product would literally sell itself. The reason we have you as salespeople is we want you to sell extra quantities. We want you to get appointments with people that we normally couldn't get appointments with. We hired you for your lovely personality, and we want to see your personality inside your presentation. So let's do some presentation training, and let's get you all tooled up so that you can be even more effective with your prospects. And remember, the more people you help, the more money you make. Don't make it about the money. The more people you help, the more people you serve, the better compensated you will be. That's a good way to pitch it to people.
Natasha is asking, how do you get feedback and see how people are reacting if you are looking at the camera and not them?
Well, I've got help thanks to Maurice and moderators on the program looking out for me. I also have my chat open, so I can. There were 18 new messages in chat. I can't get to all of them right now and be eloquent at the same time. I'm good, but I'm not that good. So I need some help with somebody teeing up the questions for me. I also will stay in the chat. This is a habit of mine. I'll stay in the chat after I'm done answering questions. I'll do this live as well. I'll say, oh, look, we're almost out of time. Why don't you come up and we can visit? Often in live events, there's a meal afterward. Come sit with me at my table and we can chat some more. People love this, you know. They want access. They just want to know that they're being served. And I don't mind at all. That's part of the business.
Okay. Well, we have Dio asking, can you comment on the importance of sticking to time and focusing on the subject of a presentation or speech?
For sure. I always use ending on time as a virtue because everybody wants to end on time. Nobody ever says, oh, no, we've got all night. Somebody might say that, but they don't even mean it. And so I'll always use it as a virtue. I want to make sure we end on time. Is that okay with you? And then I essentially enlist the audience to help me end on time. So then if there are 18 questions, everybody understands, oh yeah, we have to end on time. He's not going to be able to answer all these questions. I'll ask him in another way later on. So it's a way of deputizing the audience and getting them to participate in your agenda, which in this case is time related.
From Susan, what if you have several calls to action contained within a single delivery? And is there any way to emphasize more than one?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Maurice. Can you ask it another way?
She's asking that what I just reading from Patty, what if you have several calls to action contained within a single delivery?
Well, that's dangerous. You know, I think you should ask people to do one big thing, and I think you should be very precise to the extent that you tell them exactly what you want them to do, not approximately, and you tell them exactly when you need them to do it, not approximately. For example, if I want you to buy something from me at the end of the presentation, I don't say go home and think about it, or sometime this weekend get on the computer and find the website. I got a way for you to buy it right now, man, because I know that you're emotionally charged at the end of my presentation. You're never going to feel stronger about it than you do now. So I'm very specific about that call to action. I think it's better to winnow it down to one ask, A-S-K, than try to get a lot done at the same time. If you have several asks, you can do an upsell later. You can do the small ask to get them into the sales funnel, but I wouldn't ask them to do a lot of things at the same time. I'm not sure that's good for anybody. I hope that answers your question.
And we have a last question from Jose. How do you avoid the automatic pilot?
The automatic what?
Pilot.
Maurice, the word is what? Spell it for me.
P-I-L-O-T. Thank you for spelling.
Oh, P-I-L-O-T, pilot. How do we avoid automatic pilot when speaking?
I guess.
Okay. Well, one of the things I like to do is play off the audience because every audience is different. This audience is much different than my Zoom audience yesterday. By the way, the Zoom invitations have been relentless during COVID. Can you imagine? Because you can just ask anybody to speak now, right? And every audience is different. So when I'm playing off the audience, I know I couldn't possibly be working from my talking points. I must be fresh and I must be in the moment if I'm playing with the audience. That's why I like Q&A so much. I never leave Q&A out. That's why I work in the round. Every night is different. Every performance, right? Wayne Gretzky, a hockey player, is a performer. As a speaker tonight for you, I hope that you think I've delivered a performance of sorts and not a PowerPoint slideshow that I delivered to my last 8 Zoom meetings. That this was unique and for you. By the smile on Natasha's face, I know that she believes that.
Okay.
What else can I help you with, Maurice?
Yes.
I see some hands are raised too. Carrie Ann has her hand up.
Yes, we have Carrie Ann. Yes, absolutely.
Carrie Ann, would you like to unmute?
We recognize Carrie Ann. Yes, Sean. Maybe you can.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. I have a very odd question for you, Michael, and it is this. I saw in your chat earlier somebody asked, what do you do when most people don't want to turn on their video? As a totally blind presenter, I really don't need video, but how do you maintain contact with a mostly blind audience?
Are you speaking about the Zoom platform?
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, it's not
several meetings.
It's not lost on me, Carrie Ann, that your video is not on.
Yeah. There you go. That's why.
So let me begin by asking, just as a test question, why is your camera not on tonight? Whoops, you're muted again. People turn their camera off for various reasons. You know, they're having a bad hair day, or they don't want people to see the background, or maybe they just don't feel like they're videogenic, and that's fine. In my area of expertise with his presentation skills,
Hi, Michael. That's not my reason for staying off camera. I am very photogenic, videogenic, I've been told.
Okay.
But I keep my camera off for one simple reason. Because I don't know what you'll see behind me. So it could be the cat, it could be the dog, it could be my dirty laundry.
Okay.
So,
It could be your cat wearing your dirty laundry.
exactly. We wouldn't want that. So,
And there are different...
that's why I tend to keep it off.
Right, and I always want to be respectful of that. But I encourage people to turn their cameras on so that we can play together. We can have some fun. But if they don't want to turn it on, I'm respectful, right? Now, I teach presentation skills, so I always give this little pre-call. This is a technique in the speaking business. It's called a pre-call, P-R-E-C-A-L-L. And the pre-call is this. I want to help you, and I'll be able to help you better if I can see you and how you present to me. And what do you think happens? All the cameras come on, because they want to be better as speakers. So that's what I personally do to get people to turn their cameras on. But in the end, if they don't want to do it, Carrie Ann, I'm okay with it. We can work with it. Maurice?
Yes, we have one more live question from Wayne Wright.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say it's an excellent presentation. However, my burning question is, how do you cater for the multiple intelligences in terms of participants during the presentation?
So thank you, Wayne Wright. It sounds like you might be a fan of multiple intelligences. This is the work of, I believe his name was Herbert Gardner, and I'm a fan.
Yes, correct.
There are many, I think 16 or 11. Do you remember how many, Wayne Wright?
I think it's between the range of 11 to 14
Yes.
multiple intelligences. However, why I ask this question, it's based on the intelligences. It has a lot of how learning is being impacted by individuals through the different means. Because we may have persons that are audio inclined. Some persons are kinesthetic. And because we fail to cater for these different learning styles during the presentation, we somewhat tend to lose the focus of the participants.
Yes. So here's my simple way of doing this. I'm making a little sketch here that I'll share with you, and we'll wrap up with this if it's okay with everybody. I just go with 4 different styles, Wainwright. And this is from a guy by the name of Dr. Tony Alessandra. And the reason I only want to work with 4 styles is because I have a lot of things I need to do in a 20 or 30 minute presentation. There are now 247 people on this call. I can't even see some of them, so I'm guessing. I need to spitball to some extent. So I'm going to use a technique called the Platinum Rule. And this is the quadrant that I want you to write down. And the letters stand for relator. R is for relator. S is for socializer. T is for thinker. Wainwright, you can mute again if you would, please. And D is for director. Relator, socializer, thinker, and director. You can learn more about this by Googling Platinum Rule or Dr. Tony Alessandra. That's 2 S's. And the short version of this, everybody, is that if I can speak to all 4 personalities, I'm going to have a pretty good presentation. What Wainwright was saying is if you're only addressing a couple of the intelligences, you're not going to get to the whole audience. You're not going to actually resonate with them. So first thing I do is I lower the number down to 4. I change the model over to the Platinum Rule. And then I make sure that if you're a director, I'm getting right to the point with you. If you're a thinker, I'm providing statistics and data. If you're a relator, I'm telling you stories. And if you're a socializer, we're going to have some fun. I'm going to tell you some jokes. And now I'm covered. And that's called the Platinum Rule. I treat you the way you want to be treated. Maurice, I think we're about out of time, sir, but I'll leave that decision up to you.
Non, en fait, nous sommes arrivés à la fin de cette période de questions-réponses, à moins que
Just want to inform everyone that we have started the end of the presentation, that we have 13